Hello, my name is Aline Renault, and this is my presentation on how I would teach my classroom rules and procedures. I would like to teach high school, so that is what I kept in mind as I formulated how I would teach this to a little bit of a more mature audience than, say, middle school. So, first of all, um, I know it kind of seems like an oxymoron, but I love PowerPoints and I think they can be fun and engaging. So I would have a really good, well organized PowerPoint with lots of pictures and video clips, and I'll explain more about what the content would be. But that would be my like visual aid as I teach. I believe that most people, and especially kids, are highly food motivated, so I would keep a bag of Jolly Ranchers on hand throughout this and toss them out as people participate and answer questions. And then there's a little bit of a competition part to this as well, and I will get to that. But to me, the most important thing is that you start with the rules. I think the rules lay down the foundation for procedures, especially with my concept of what rules should be. So, if you've ever seen George Carlin's stand up routine talking about the Ten Commandments, he manages to condense the Ten Commandments down to two. And I think that you can condense classroom rules to one word, and that one word would be, to me, respect. So while my rules would be listed as, respect, be prompt, always be honest and show integrity, practice self reliance and be responsible, and strive to be the best version of yourself, I think all of that can be summed up in respect. You know, everyone knows the song RESPCT, find out what it means to me. And I'd probably play that and hook that up somehow, and it'd be fun. And I just hope the kids still know who Aretha Franklin is. So we would discuss respect and what that means. And I'd ask them kind of probing questions like, if you're late, are you respecting my time? Are you respecting your time? Are you respecting your classmates' time? Because now everybody has to wait for you to get ready before I start my lesson, right? Um, if we can, face a problem head on and ask ourselves, is what we did respectful? Did we act with respect? And the answer is no. That should be a very like easy question for them. Like, oh, you're right. I didn't. I didn't act with respect. So, after we had our in depth conversation about my rules and how they're based on respect, I would ask them to create their own acrostic. I would divvy them up into teams. Since this is the start of the school year, theoretically, um, they would be sitting alphabetically. So I'd probably just do rows or columns and um, divvy them up. And their instructions would be to come up with a one word adjective that describes how students that demonstrate respect should act. And that would be one word for each letter. Um, and then ask them, brainstorm about that, maybe guide them to some resources, some thesauruses, and have them jot them down. And then I would bring up Poll Everywhere, and I would put in what words they chose, but it's very, very quick and simple, so that wouldn't be a waste of time to ask, like, okay, what's your R word? What's your R word? Team three, what did you come up with for R? Input that into the ranking activity on Poll Everywhere, and I would take it letter by letter, and then they could vote on what they think the best possible word for the R in respect would be. Obviously, I put reticent, reluctant, rambunctious. Those aren't good examples. So our clear winner here would be responsible. So you see, in theory, they voted for responsible. And I would definitely have ultimate say in what they chose. They can't be ridiculous or not actually have anything to do with respect. So we would do that for all the letters, and then I would have a poster ready to go. You know, we got our acrostic, and then whatever they came up with for their words, I would jot down. I came up with responsible, engaged, sociable, perseverant, ethical, considerate, timely. But I mean, there's other things they could do, like maybe they came up with committed for C, or enthusiastic instead of engaged, reliable instead of responsible. There's a lot of different words they could potentially come up with, and I think it's more meaningful if they come up with it themselves and vote on it. And, you know, let's say team one came up with responsible and responsible one, you know, okay, well, here's your Jolly Ranchers, or maybe I'd bake cupcakes. I don't know. But I definitely think giving it a little of a competitive spirit to it works wonders for engagement. Okay. And then from there, we talk about procedures. And I really think that the procedures make more sense once they understand like what respect means to me, and we come to a consensus on what respect should mean to us in the classroom. So I would use some clips in my PowerPoint. This is where that like super fun, engaging PowerPoint comes in. Clips from Saved by the Bell. You know, why are they up and walking around? Is that what you should be doing in the middle class? No. Bart Simpson is a great example of what I do not want you to do in my class. Mr. Feeney's classroom management is exceptional in Boy Meets World. So I would come up with some clips from that. Certain things I would have them model, like, you know, Jimmy, could you please get up and show me how you would enter the classroom? You know, all right, class, you know, if Jimmy's not in his seat when the bell rings, are you actually present and prepared for class, or are you tardy? You know, ask those kind of questions. All of the procedures and rules would be listed on the class website. I'm envisioning something like Weebly. And also on their syllabi, because once again, this is high school that I want to teach. So they definitely should be able to read through a syllabi. And I would require their signature and guardian signature, so that it comes to no surprise when, you know, after the fifth time I've had to reprimand Jimmy, if I email or call his mother and I say, you know, well, he wasn't in his seat when the bell rang and I consider that tardy. And she's like, well, what on earth do you mean by that? That seems really strict. Like, well, ma'am, you signed it. You agreed. So that also kind of helps cover my tracks. Um, for assessing their understanding of rules and procedures. So originally, I was thinking of the highlights comic strip, Goofus and Gallant, and then I realized, wow, a lot of people don't know Goofus and Gallant anymore. And I tried to find meme generators specifically for Goofus and Gallant. They were sorely lacking. But I think it's important that for this assessment, they still use the Goofus and Gallant principle, and that principle being that it's a dichotomy, and you need to show that you understand what the bad behavior is, but you also need to show me you know what the positive, good behavior is. So the assessment would be, you know, I'm going to assign you one of my procedures or a category of procedures, and you're going to create a meme for me. And it needs to have both the negative and positive. And so, like, here's an example of that. It doesn't just focus on the good behavior or just the bad behavior, it focuses on both. And I think that's important because sometimes you can tell someone, well, here's what I don't want you to do and never do this, but it's like, well, what is my expected behavior then? Like, what do I do instead of that? What's the good behavior? The RESPECT poster, and the memes will be prominently displayed in the classroom. And um, rules and procedures I think should always be reviewed after breaks, at the start of new quarters, which are likely the same around the same time. Um, and if there's some serious infractions that occur in the classroom, or I have a handful of students that just keep pushing boundaries, then I would address it with the entire class. If it's just one individual, then obviously that's something that we would need to handle one on one. But if it's a class problem, I'm talking 3, 4 or more people, then that's when we would do a serious review. And yeah, that is how I would do that. Thank you for listening.